Okay, I think a very important issue we need to go through right now is what Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez put on. Mr. Clerk, it's R9B as in Bob.
Discuss pollution in the bay from the pump systems requested by Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez.
Okay. Commissioner, do you want to hear from them, or do you want to speak first? Because I think everyone knows the issue. It's up to you. You want to hear them?
Sure, go ahead.
Eric, guys? Okay. Betsy, all of you? Yep. Thank you. We know the issue. We read the disturbing article in the Herald, which is something we're going to address right after this. But please give us your thoughts and tell us what's going on.
Mr. Mayor, members of the Commission, I'm Roy Coley. I work for the Public Works Department. I'm the Infrastructure Division Director, and my responsibility is the operation and maintenance of the stormwater system. A few points that we wanted to make was, as you mentioned, you read the article, and there seemed to be the tone that we are pumping human waste into the bay, and it's simply not true. It's not accurate. We have the facts on our side that say otherwise. Stormwater, by its very nature, carries pollutants that it comes in contact with in the urban and rural environments.
Okay.
And the pollutants that are in our stormwater are very similar to the pollutants in stormwater all across South Florida communities, the United States, California, and the world. We've done extensive testing of our stormwater. We know what we have. We're prepared to answer any questions that you might have as to our management practices and what we're doing. We also would like to point out that our pump stations are not contributing bacteria to the water. Our pumping stations are simply a mechanical tool that moves the water from place to place, and it is irrespective whether it's gravity flowing or whether it's pumped as to what pollutants are in the water. Our goal is to reduce pollutants.
Joey, don't leave. Joey, Mr. Miami Herald, don't leave. You guys are up next.
Yeah, Joey, you might want to stay for this.
We'll stay for this one. Okay. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Our goal is to reduce pollutants. We have very aggressive maintenance plans. We're cleaning the streets regular. We're cleaning the catch basins. We're cleaning the pipes, the pollution control devices that are high technology designed in. We're cleaning our pump stations. What we are discharging from our stormwater runoff has less pollutants in it than before all of these structures and plans were built. So I will end with that and answer any questions.
Commissioner.
Okay, what really disturbed me was that the levels of fecal matter were 622 times what's acceptable. If we're doing all of that, the reason I worry is because scientific research the scientific method is there for a purpose, so that we can ensure that our results are valid and reliable. And I really don't think they would have released this data if it wouldn't have had a high level of significance. What do you think about that?
Well, what you have is the results of a grab sample. Mm-hmm. And it's one sample, one snapshot in time that does not give you any controls for scientific sampling. It does not give you any background to show what the trends are. We have done our own sampling, and we have done a number of grab samples across our community and even in Miami to compare our numbers to their numbers. And what you see is a variety. We have times when we've sampled those waters and the bacteria levels are undetectable, and we have times when they are highly detectable and they're in excessive numbers. And what our plan is to recognize this is what stormwater is. This is stormwater runoff. This isn't new, and that we need to implement ever-increasing aggressive ways to reduce it, but at the same time assert that this isn't unique to Miami Beach.
Commissioner?
Okay, so it was two places. It was at 14th Street, and then again it was at along India Creek Drive. Those were the two areas. Why did those areas test so high, but the other areas didn't? And how often are you testing? And how do we know that you're getting the right samples from the right places? And why is your data so different from the universities?
The data that I'm referring to, we engaged Pace Analytical Services back in January to do some sampling from around the community, and we started at South Point in the marina. We come around to all the gravity outfalls and the pumped outfalls, came up into Sunset Harbor and at the boat ramp, and we sampled all of those locations multiple times. And at times we would get undetectable results everywhere, and that's Pace Analytical, which a point to be made, is the same organization that performs DERMS testing. And then at times you would get very high levels of bacteria counts, and that is the nature of needing to have more information.
So when we do an overall average of high levels of toxicity and low levels, what are we getting on, average is what, 300 times?
No,
What's
and-
normally
no.
acceptable? Because this is pretty bad.
First, it's not toxicity.
Okay.
There is nothing toxic being reported. What's being reported is bacteria counts. And the bacteria count levels that are considered acceptable are typically based on full body exposure, such as submerging your body in it for some period of time, and how many colony counts is considered safe or unsafe. So that's the levels we're speaking to. Enterococcal bacteria and fecal coliform are the two bacteria they test for, and based on the colony count determines whether they think it's safe to swim in or not. What's interesting, and their article points it out, if you take it at the exact source, the samples, and you get your bacteriological results, you move just a few feet away and the results are drastically lower. It disperses quickly, the bacteria die quickly, and so when you see a number like that at one particular spot, that doesn't mean that's what the overall situation is.
I would love the other scientists to come here and testify and make sure that that's correct, just so that we have a second opinion on this. The other part of this article that bothered me is if we do have the technology. Listen, I'm super happy we're building these pumps, we're pumping out the water, but if we kill the bay, we kill our economy. Okay, and that's serious. Right now, I don't think that water is swimmable, especially near the outfalls. We need to let residents know that that water is toxic. I know you don't, full of bacteria, full of fecal, what did you call it?
No, you have
Cocca
bacteria. It's not
something
toxic.
bacteria?
Enterococca is a bacteria that is used as an indicator organism that there's potential for pathogenic viruses and organisms to be present, but it is not a positive test that there are pathogens in the water. It's an alarm that it could be.
So what we need to do is put better filters on it immediately or stop the pumps
Let's
or
let-
inject it underground.
Let's let Commissioner Grieco, you like
All
to?
right, let's break this down. All right, so there's poop going in the bay, all right? That article was a hit piece. And here's why it's a hit piece, because it pretty much made it sound like somehow our pumps are somehow generating fecal matter and putting it in the water, all right? Before we put these pump systems in and actually gave this city dry roads, before we did this, the same water was already going in the bay. It was just going in slower, all right? And it was sitting on our streets. You want to know why we have increase? Because people don't pick up their dog poop. All right, it's not that complicated because our stormwater system is completely separate from the sewage system. So it's not like the pipes are all mixed up and we're pumping crap. It doesn't work like that. So it was a hit piece. That's exactly what it was. I don't know where it came from. I don't know what the story is. It's real sexy because anytime that the Herald runs any article on the cover that has the words Miami Beach in it, they sell more papers. All right, so it's real easy to go. You can put your hand down. You'll get called when it's your turn. So this is showtime. This is a show, all right? And I don't know why. Stop talking. It's not your turn. So this is a show, all right? And it's a show to try to undermine everything that this administration has done regarding the pumps, whether it be because there's elections coming up next year, whether it be because people want to undermine what the mayor and some of the other commissioners have done over the last few years. But what we have done has worked. I personally would never allow any negative impacts on the environment just to keep our streets dry. And we took all of that into account. In fact, the water that's going into the bay now is in better condition than it was before because we're clearing out all of the floatables and all of the other things that were getting just pumped out without any clearance before. The catch basins weren't nearly as effective as they are now. If we showed you videos of all the things that we suck out from before it even goes into the pumps, you'd be blown away. All right? So this is the way it works in every city. The water that gets pumped out, if you go to the outfall of any city, the water is not going to be something that you want to shower in. Okay, that's just not the way that it is. You can't. It's water from the street that runs off. So the pumps are not creating anything new that was going in there before. So it was a hit piece, and I defer to the mayor as to.
Oh, thank you. Hold on. Commissioner Malakoff would like to speak. Let
Yes.
everyone have a chance to speak.
Thank you. I had previously requested from staff that we have more doggy poop collecting bags and containers to put the bags in so that doggy poop doesn't make its way into any storm drains. That was one thing that was mentioned in the article, that there was some dog matter in the water. The second thing that was not necessarily mentioned, but which has been a problem, is grease from restaurants that don't have proper grease traps. We have a new person aboard who is the inspector for grease traps. She'll be visiting all the restaurants. She's working currently with Durham and learning exactly how the grease is supposed to be trapped, how it's supposed to be properly disposed of, and I think that, along with the doggy matter, will help to somewhat cleanse the water that's draining from the streets through the pumps, through the outfalls to the water. Those are two items that are within the water that the city can do something about, making it cleaner.
Thank you. Commissioner Ariola?
Yeah, I want to echo some of the things that my colleague said. It was a hit piece, and I agree. It's offensive when our community paper distorts the truth and unduly alarms the public. They show a picture of Tasty Bakery in Alton and flooding in front of it. That's an old picture.
3 years ago.
That building does not get flooded anymore because of the work we've done. I take great pride in what this commission has done and is doing, and the commission before us, what they've done. And what I really feel bad is a great city staff that we have that work like crazy to protect this city. So I take exception. That said, I'm concerned when you get these kinds of reports, and we're looking into it. Just a couple of hours ago, the Sustainability Committee passed a resolution urging our staff and all city vendors to reduce and hopefully eliminate the use of pesticides and herbicides in our green space and in our parks, so that doesn't get into our drinking water or runoff into our stormwater drains and end up in the bay. So, and another thing that Commissioner Malakoff talked about that we're also working diligently on is figuring out how to deal with our grease traps here. And we'll eventually fix that because it's a county issue, so that grease isn't going into our storm drains. So we're diligently working on this, and I want the public to know that.
Thank you. Commissioner Rosa Gonzalez, want to speak?
That's a conspiracy theory that that's a hit piece. Academics are not politicians. I don't think that this researcher, this hydrologist from FIU is thinking politically. He's not running for anything. I think he cares about the Bay. I don't think we should call academics liars. I think what we need to do is be proactive. We need to put better filters on them, or we need to find the money to inject it below the water table. I don't think that this was a hit piece at all. I think people are afraid. I think people are afraid that we're going to kill the Bay more than we already have. And I think we need to talk about it honestly and seriously. This isn't about blame. It's not about blame. I don't want to blame Commissioner Grieco or the mayor. We all want to stay dry, but we want to keep the Bay clean. Okay, so let's figure out a way that we can do it. If it's going to cost more money, well, then we have to do it. We're spending $600 million on the convention center. We might as well spend the money to keep our Bay clean, don't you think?
Right. Thank you.
My personal
Okay.
opinion.
Commissioner?
A question, just to sort of stave off the conspiracy theories that we're sampling, where we know it's clean and so forth. Is there an agency that provides oversight to our sampling methodology?
I can speak to that. Margarita Wells, Environmental Manager. We are regulated in our stormwater discharges by the EPA as well as Miami-Dade County, and we have a robust sampling program that has been going on for many years that samples at specific locations agreed upon between Durham, the state of Florida, as well as the EPA. And we have monthly samples, and the results of those samples do not indicate that there is an issue above regulatory criteria. In addition, at the last commission meeting, you approved an interlocal agreement with Miami-Dade County to add additional sampling stations because we do know that we need to know more information about the quality of our waterways, and we want to make sure that we're developing a study in conjunction with these other agencies that is scientifically robust and that will give us a picture, not just the one given moment, but over a long period of time to account for seasonal variability, diurnal variability, and all of these different pollutants.
Thank you. And are we audited periodically to make sure that we are sampling where we are supposed to be sampling, that we've agreed on with the county and the state?
That's correct. On an annual basis, we have to provide that report to the state of Florida as well as to the EPA for review, and we're audited on a periodic basis.
Thank you for sharing that. And I do want to, a couple of my colleagues said, and I want to reinforce that for all of us watching this, all of us here today, and those of us that will see this, there are things that each of us individually can do besides the actions that the city takes to improve the water quality, avoid littering, pick up after our pets, reduce the use of fertilizers and pesticides, don't pour anything down the storm drains that you don't want to go in the bay. So no motor oil, no paint, no kitchen grease. If you have a business, be very cognizant of if all of us stopped doing all of those things that I just mentioned, we probably wouldn't be talking about this.
Thank you. Now, let me ask you a couple of questions. Ladies, so we monitor this consistently, and we have never found that this issue actually occurred based on our own testing. In other words, we're doing everything per EPA, per DERM.
That's correct.
Okay. So basically what the Miami Herald said is EPA and DERM are not doing their job. I mean, one would say that the Herald just came out and said that EPA and DERM is not doing their job, because clearly if we're monitoring and EPA and DERM says that we're up to date and everything that we're doing, I would almost believe that the Herald is basically saying that DERM, EPA, and also the Department of Environmental Protection in Tallahassee may not be doing their job correctly. Because if we know we're doing this, we know that they're doing this, yet the Herald cited a report, and Commissioner, nothing against academics whatsoever, but we also have reason to believe that somehow this academic maybe possibly is involved in trying to get a contract with our city as well, okay? So things are very political. Sometimes they're not what they appear to be. That's number one. Number two, Mr. Manager, I want to thank you very much on behalf of the city for you writing that great letter quickly, getting it in the Herald, and basically calling out the Herald for the article that they wrote. As Commissioner Grieco said, for 100 years, the city of Miami Beach has a gravitational drainage system. The water goes on the street, and then it goes out in the bay. In the last 3 years, because of sea level rise, we put in pumps that push the water out faster. The only difference is we have these incredible vortex systems that now stops a majority of the garbage and trash that was normally going out can no longer go out, and we clean the best that we possibly can. I personally believe, and it has nothing to do with being you can call it a hit piece, you can call it what you want. But today's media world, we see it all across the country, we see it everywhere. Companies like the Miami Herald are struggling. They have to sell ads, okay? Everything in Miami Beach is sexy, it's incredible. So if you put a headline on that says Miami Beach has a nuclear reactor and they're poisoning the entire country, everyone's going to read it and you'll be able to sell ads. And we know that's what it is. We lost a police dog about a week ago, 10 days ago. He escaped. He ran away from his trainer. You would have thought that somehow every police dog in the entire city had run amok and was fighting everybody. And the Herald covered it, and everyone covered it, and they covered it because it was Miami Beach. I personally feel the Herald was inaccurate in this story. They played themselves as the National Enquirer. They shouldn't have done it. They were wrong. I believe that we should consider looking at a potential retraction of that story, and I think that our city attorney should look at any potential legal format going forward, whether it's a letter asking for retraction or whatever it may be. Because let me tell you something, folks. We're at the forefront of what we're doing in keeping our city dry. And people are working very, very hard with the EPA, with DERM, with every government-regulated agency to make sure we're doing the right thing, and we're testing ourselves. But to have a paper come out in order to sell ads is dangerous, it's wrong. I believe it's defamatory against our city. And by the way, they're going to keep doing it constantly unless somehow, some way, we let them know, hey, if we do something wrong, that's fine. Call us out. But to do something which I believe is inaccurate and sensationalist, it's wrong for our city. It's wrong for all of us. I think it's offensive to everybody up here. I got to tell you. So that's just my opinion. And we can sit back and you can wait for another one next year or next month or next week or whatever it may be. But I think it's wrong. And sure. And then we're going to move on, Commissioner. Go ahead.
Okay, this is my final thing. I would like the record to reflect that this is also Florida International University. I don't think Dr. Rosenberg is going to allow his faculty members to go around giving out negative research at the expense of the reputation of one of our largest academic institutions. That's number one. It could have been sensationalist, but I really doubt it. I think we should see Mr. Bresenio. I think we should find out what these results are. And finally, I also want the record to reflect that only 4 out of 70 pumps have been installed, and the levels of pollution are at 622 times the accepted toxicity level. And we only have 4 of 70, so we have to be very careful.
Thank
and I would
you.
really hope that we'll put in the filters or inject the water underground like you're suggesting.
I respectfully disagree with you, but I hear your opinion. And let me just say one more thing. We have professors from the University of Miami who are telling us that we're going to be completely underwater. It doesn't make a difference. Just sell your houses and leave, okay? And you know what that's good for? That's Professor Wanless. Helps him sell books. It helps him go on the speaker circuit. That's what it's about. We know that, okay? And there are professors at FIU, and we are going to talk to Dr. Rosenberg about this, because this is a serious situation, and we're not going to let it continue. Mr. Manager, did you want to say something?
I just want to say, today I did send also a letter to senior leadership at FIU expressing, based after conversations with our, not only engineers, but our environmental scientists, about what we consider to be very sloppy science.
Right.
We all know from basic science, if you have a hypothesis, you test it, you have controls. This gentleman reached conclusions based on 2 testing sites on 1 day, no controls. He didn't go to any outfalls that had no pumps on them. He didn't go anywhere across the bay. He didn't do it over time. Candidly, yesterday at our Sustainability Blue Ribbon Committee, the head of FIU Sustainability Sea Level Rise Institute publicly expressed disagreement with the statements made in the article, and we will be setting up a meeting with FIU because we believe there is a different agenda here, not scientific.
Sloppy science combined with sloppy journalism. Commissioner
I mean,
Ariola?
you want to be as objective as you can be on this matter. The picture they showed in the Herald is a picture of Tasty Bakery flooded. That doesn't happen anymore. It's an old picture before the streets were raised. I mean, it is misleading, objectively a misleading photo. You would think the city was underwater. And it's changed because of the work that's been happening.
They don't do it.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you want to continue having that photograph after the western part of your city is completely dry, if you want them to keep using that photograph, then do nothing right now. If you'd like to take a stand, let them know we're serious. Report the truth, but don't go out there and exaggerate to sell ads. It's wrong. So I don't know if someone feels that they'd like to, you know, if someone would like to move to have the attorney to write a letter of retraction and we can investigate this further and see how they respond. I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's time that, you know, everyone kind of you stand up and you got to do the right thing. You know, so it's up to you all.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner?
Yeah, and so I would make such a motion where I'd like to see our city attorney seek any avenues, you know, look through it, see if there's any avenues that we can take to protect ourselves, not just on this issue, but in the future. I do take issue with the article. I take issue with the way that they approached the scientific analysis of all of this. I have grave concerns about this. It's something that could have, you know, we've got more that we have to do here, and it takes a lot of political will to do it. And by potentially undermining that political will, that's a major issue. And I don't know, I still don't know what the motivations are.
That's your motion?
Fascinated.
Yep.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
And I just want to comment, there's a reason this is important to all of us that are here and that are watching. And when sensationalism about sea level rise gets out there and starts to erode people's confidence, you know, that affects our community. It affects you personally. It affects your property values, whether they're residential or commercial property values. So the sensationalism and trying to create fear, sea level rise on a fact basis is scary enough as it is. We don't need irresponsible science or irresponsible reporting.
Absolutely.
Exacerbating the situation, and it does affect all of us individually.
Great, there's a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay, 1 nay from Commissioner Rosen. All right. Thank you all, and thank you for all the great work all of you do to keep our city high and dry. We appreciate it. Thank you.